Hey guys, welcome to Pro Shop Talk. I'm Daniel, I'm the technical director here at the Masters Craft, and this is our series where we get to talk to some of our vendor partners about their products and also just get some good tips and tricks and techniques on how to apply their products. Today I'm really excited we get to talk with Micah Loberg at Loba for the second time. So I love talking with Micah. He's always got a lot of good information, and I've actually had the privilege of doing a couple floors with him as well. So Micah, welcome to Pro Shop Talk. Why don't you, for the people who haven't seen before or don't know you, give us a quick introduction on who you are and kind of your history with Loba.
Cool. Thanks, Daniel. Appreciate it, buddy. Michael Loberg. I live in Colorado. I'm a tech rep for Loba and Wakol. Been doing floors for like 25 years, and I was a contractor for quite a bit of those years as an independent. So my background is a lot of hands-on, a lot of learning stuff the hard way.
Yeah, you probably coated a floor or two in your day.
One, but that was your friends, and then YouTube,
Yeah. All right, sweet. Today we're going to be talking about just the different additives that you guys have for your finishes. So I think you have 4 of them. I guess I'm going to ask this question with everyone, so we might as well just answer it with everyone. All of these additives are catalyzer first in the bottle on a 2-component, shake it up, then add the additive in, and then reshake it up, right?
Yep. Yep. And also shake the additive.
Okay, yeah,
If the additive looks clear, it's because the pigment is sunk to the bottom.
settle down.
And it is, all it is, it's pigment and solvent, and it's going to separate. And so shake that up really well, pour it in, and shake it back up. And none of our finishes, you have to wait for like foaming to die down.
Yeah.
Mix it up and start pouring, start coating.
Basically, I need an education from you on
Yeah.
the different products. So why don't you run me through your different additive products?
I'll start with UV-Protect. Easiest way for me to explain it is like sunblock, like suntan lotion. So the more coats you have of UV, the better, just like sunblock would be. You only really use it on lighter species. It's not going to really do anything with darker species because they're already darker pigmented, and that's what's like protecting them, even though they're still going to fade and stuff in the sun.
Mm-hmm.
But this is only really being used on lighter species. Add it in, just like all of our components. If it's a 2-component, add in the hardener first, then shake it up, and then add the component. And it doesn't change the viscosity. It doesn't change anything about the application. So you're just adding it and forget about it.
So is it more trying to like prevent changes in the finish, or is it actually going to diminish, like in a walnut and a cherry, that change from either brown to blonde or red to brown?
It's more finish. It's not going to help in the darker species. That's a common mistake. Think that, oh, the finish is changing, but it's actually the wood itself.
Right. Okay, that makes sense. That's the clarification I was trying to get at. If it's preventing a change in the lighter species, probably what you're seeing in there is a lot more of like the finish changing, and you can see that because you've got a light background to it as opposed to a dark background. So
Especially like maple, like where maple's like the number one species for that because it turns maple's beautiful until that finish starts changing.
gotcha. Or like if you want to go kind of like the floor we did at Phil's house, if you want to go lighter white oak, do kind of a washed out white oak look, then maybe put that in to prevent color change, especially if you've got floor to ceiling windows or skylights or things like that.
Absolutely.
Gotcha.
Yeah, that's key right there. Yeah, all those whitewash floors, yeah, for sure. Like if you're gonna stain your floor white, it needs to be UV protected. It's so cheap. You could charge them for it. Some guys charge them, and some guys just do it.
Hi.
I just did it. Like I just did it because it's like $10 or something. It's like I'm just
Yeah.
gonna add it in so I hopefully lessen my phone calls.
That just makes me think that I hope Phil doesn't see this video because we didn't do it to his floor.
Well, he didn't have south-facing windows.
Yeah, that's the
We'll
explanation. Yeah,
I got it covered. Don't worry.
you should definitely do it on any whitewash floor. It's cheap. It's easy to do. Like you'd be an idiot if you didn't do it. Like we went out to Phil's floor and we whitewashed it and didn't put UV in the finish. Oh, that's amazing. Okay, so we got UV Protect, and then what's the next one?
Argo is like our retardant. It slows down the setup process, especially in like two components and even more specifically our dry climate.
Okay.
Especially two components are famous for flashing off quickly,
Right.
and they do. And the more you work it, the quicker it's flashing. So you really have a smaller time frame on setup, with the two components. But this is just going to help keep it open a little bit longer and give you a little bit more time to get away with a little bit more. I'm always going to defer back to, like, I'm going to say put more finish on the floor.
Right.
That's always going to be the end all be all of flashing and puddles and lap marks and everything that comes along with our dry climate.
Right.
But put plenty of finish on the floor, and then with the added Argo, it's going to help even significantly more. I always see it in, like, with T-barring and stuff like that, those long lines, those long runs that you have from pulling.
Yeah.
That has a tendency to start flashing quicker, and then you're going to see that kind of line, even if it's subtle.
Right.
But this will just help for when you're pulling that next line back. Your first line isn't setting up yet. Even like extending it a couple of minutes is a huge help while you're coating those big floors. It's just going to help keep it open so it kind of levels back into itself easier.
Like, what's the rough estimate for increased open time that you tell a guy?
If I'm using Argo, call it 1,000 square feet, like a nice wide open 1,000 square feet, I'm probably going to still be completely open where I started.
Okay.
30 minutes, 40 minutes, like it won't be setting up, but I'm also putting on a lot of finish. So the realistic number is probably 10% more, which is usually that critical time that flashes. Like when you flash, it's flashing within a minute. Like if you put it on thin and it's a super hot day and dry, it's flashing super quick. Depending on your sanding sequence, all that kind of comes into play. If you're finishing off with an 80, it's probably going to flash off quicker.
Right. If I was describing it to a contractor, is like you put, and this is with a lot of coatings, you put it on super thin in a spot. Even if you're going to come back to that spot, it soaks in and dries up like that thin, so that even if you come back over with a heavy coating, that's not able to absorb into the floor. So then you get like a color difference between the thin area and the thick area. That's where you're saying like Argo would prevent it from flashing off super fast when you coat it thin, so you don't get those color differences or those lap marks, or like around the edge you get that kind of stuff. So,
and this is where we get into like also the tips and tricks besides the Argo, also trying to make sure that that house is nice and cool, that the floors are nice and cool. Like in Colorado, if you're coating a floor after like 2 p.m. without the AC cooling that floor down, like it's going to be almost impossible to not flash with two components. That's not brand related. That's just straight up. Any two components going to have a really tough time on. Get the AC on the night before. Get the floor down to like 60 degrees. Get that floor nice and cool, and you'll see that's where you'll see the giant difference. If that house hasn't been AC the entire week you've been working on it, and it's been 90 degrees in Denver, you're in for it.
I coated with Supra in the upstairs of a house 2 summers ago, and it was like, sun beating right through the window, big sun mark or sunspot in the middle of the room. It wasn't a big room. I think it was only like 12 by 12, but even just trying to roll from the back wall to the front wall in that 12 by 12 area, Supra set up so fast right where that sun was that I got the orange peel texture off the roller. And so that's kind of one of those situations where you've got a lot of factors working against you. It was hot, they didn't have AC, I got sun beating in, I've got a 2-component finish, I've got a dry climate, and I'm trying to get it down and let it level.
Those kind of jobs are just going to be there, and it's like sometimes you're going to get caught with that. Try to manage your time. I was like really trying to do final coats at like 7 in the morning in the summer.
Makes sense.
Like really playing into that.
Yeah.
But it's
so
in a perfect world.
Other finishes will say you can put water in the finish, but then even other brands of finish will say water actually makes it set up faster. Do you guys at Loba recommend water in any circumstance? Is it a no-no? Is it only use Argo to...
I'm cool with you doing it. I'm cool with you putting a few ounces in. 3 ounces or something is cool. I try to shy away from it. I'm not helping them becoming a better coder.
Yeah.
And actually seeing the bigger picture of it. I'm always afraid if I say 3 ounces, it becomes 6 ounces very quickly.
Yeah.
And then next thing you know, it's a half a gallon.
And
My rep told me I could put water in it,
the
so
next thing you know, it's mineral spirits. They're putting mineral spirits in water base. That makes sense. When I think about it, 3 ounces is that's like a shot glass. That's not much. So if you're gonna go that route, I mean, use Argo. I've used Argo. It
Yep.
does definitely increase that open time, and it's
Yeah.
the proper route to go on that. And not only that, it's the easier route to go because one Argo bottle goes into 1 gallon of finish, and so you're just 1-to-1 mix it up. And then with the Argo, on the 2 component, do you mix catalyzer first and then Argo?
Yeah, you want to get that hardener and the finish mixed up first, then recap it, shake it up, then pour the Argo in and shake it up again. That's how we're told to do it from Germany, and I'm sure that there's a real reason why. I'm just not going to give you the scientific reason.
Well,
I'm still just
the German,
if the Germans tell me to do it, I'm going to do that.
yeah, the German engineers generally have it figured out. Okay, so that's Argo, and then I think we've got the 2 color additives, which are Amberizer and Whitener, right?
Amberizer, that they are a little bit different in application.
Uh-huh.
So the Amberizer, we don't put it in our primer. So you're going to prime the floor first and then amberize. We don't want you to put Amberizer in the sealer because it's not as easy to apply.
Like, not as easy to apply. Is that because you get color differentials, like you get lap marks, you get thick and thin areas?
Yep. It's just not playing well with the primer.
Interesting. Okay.
It's the simplest way I can put it. And so prime it first and then put the Amberizer in.
You put 1 bottle of Amberizer and 1 bottle of finish. Can you do it thicker than that? Can you do 2 Amberizer to 1 finish?
1-to-1.
1-to-1.
You're just gonna once you put these components in, these additives in, it is pigment. You're adding pigment to your finish.
Yeah.
And so you got to be kind of more on your A game. And if you add more pigment to the finish, you're more susceptible to streaking or turn marks or whatever it is. Really, really hard to do with 2. You're really just trying to give it like a little bit more depth, like a little bit more richness, and especially like old school customers, clients that had an old poly floor, they're half expecting to have that amber look.
Yeah.
And what's cool about this stuff is it's not going to continue to amber like poly.
It's going to stay pretty close to the color 5 years from now.
And it's nice for like traditional colors, like staining your floor nutmeg or golden oak or whatever that is. And instead of just putting a clear coat on and maybe losing some of that richness,
yeah, when
you add that Amberizer, you're like keeping that nice, like pure look. I was using it for all my traditional colors, medium browns and stuff like that.
And I've also used, I guess, not that Amberizer, but similar products whenever you're trying to match an older floor and you can get the stain kind of there, but you want to create that aged patina, throwing some amber on top.
Yep.
Just about makes it look perfect.
Yeah.
But so that makes sense. You don't want to put it in the Easy Prime, which is the water-based sealer you guys make. You want to put it in the finish, and I'm guessing a good amount of that reason is because your first coat dries so fast, soaks into the dry wood and dries so fast, it doesn't have as much leveling power. But all the subsequent coats, you're getting a lot more leveling, so any color differential is going to level out better. Is that kind of the thought there?
Mm-hmm. Yep. You're going to just see it more in that brighter tone, in that like richer tone. When you're looking for a richer tone and you're on the job and you walk in and they go, "Hey, can we get it like 1 tone more, like a little bit more rich?" Then you can coat the next 2 coats with Amberizer and call it good.
Gotcha.
And it's a cheap additive. It's another cheap additive. And then you don't have to like buy a jug of ambered finish. It's just an additive. You guys don't have to have a bunch of stock either.
Yeah, because you got the same bottle of finish, and then if you have the additive separate, gives you 2 options, or 3 options, I guess, depending on the color that you choose. You get to use your finish clear, put amber in it, or use whitener, which is what we're going to talk about next. So whitener's the same as amber or different? What are
same exact concept. This you can put in primer, and the reason is because it's lighter. You're going to get away with a lot more with the whitener.
Okay.
And this is like nothing out there. It's really, really user friendly. I've really tried to beat it up on jobs to see like what I can get away with and stuff, and it's really, really forgiving. And it always goes back to like making sure you put enough finish on the floor.
Yeah.
If you put enough finish on the floor, you're going to be, your outcome's going to be a lot easier. With the whitener, you can put in the easy prime. You can put it in all three coats, and I'm finding that like two coats is more white than most white stains out there. So you're eliminating having to stain the floor.
Mm-hmm.
You're eliminating a lot. So this would stay on the lighter floors. You wouldn't put whitener over a dark stained floor. It'll look foggy. And yeah, I mean, you could do it if you wanted a funky look like that, but heads up, don't try to put it over even like a lightly stained floor.
That's a good clarification. You're not getting like a cerise look with it where you get like the white and the grain. You're not going to achieve that really. All you're going to get is just like a haze over the floor as if you had
Yep.
ghosted the finish.
Say that
I said
again.
I just invented that term right now, ghosted the finish. I don't think that's actually a thing, but it's a thing now.
It is now. It can go in any of our finishes. It can go in all three coats. And it's another easy one. You can show them the samples of what they want.
Mm-hmm.
And they can also walk in the morning on the second day and go, that's white enough. Let's just clear coat it.
Gotcha.
So
Okay.
it's like really easy for the contractor to go in because I've had it happen to me. Even if I stain the floor white, I've gone in and coated the floor and then be like, that wasn't white enough. So this is like a really easy way to be able to control that job site a little bit. Again, a pigmented finish. Don't leave a big heavy stop mark and think that you're not going to see that, or like a funky turn mark or something like that,
Right.
or cutting in too far ahead. All that plays like a huge factor. It's going to flash off, and then it's going to build on itself because it's a pigmented finish.
Right.
So if you cut in a whole room and then go back and start rolling, everything you cut in is going to flash off and it will build. It will build and you will be resanding the floor. So, I mean, you can mess this up, but it's also very easy to do right.
Right. Yeah, it strikes me that on times I've seen it messed up, like if somebody doesn't know how to put it down and they're trying to work it too much or whatever, they're leaving stop marks across a whole room. Something you want to be familiar with. So let's talk a little bit about like the coating style. Do you recommend any of the color additives like amber or whitener that you roll them on, or you T-bar? Does it not matter? What's really important in the coating process to get it right where it looks even?
I teach rolling. I always teach rolling out of a bucket. I'm not saying you can't pull it off with a T-bar or a pad or however, but and I usually don't tell guys to just start changing all of a sudden. It's just a slow transition.
Right.
But I'm always going to teach you with a roller out of a bucket and 120 roller, dunk in the bucket and call that 10 square feet, and you will very rarely have an issue. And the couple jobs I was on with you, you already know that's like the words that come out of my mouth all day long. Put more finish on the floor.
Yeah.
And if you do that, you're going to see the difference. And everybody that does that, honestly, sees the big difference.
Moving to Denver has really upped my game on finishing, and a good part of that is just learning how to put as much finish on the floor as you can manage without puddles and flooding that floor, because you don't get the areas that flash off. You don't get the lap marks because when you are coming back across finish that you've already coated, it's still wet and then it levels together. So you're eliminating a lot of errors that way. And then also like around a room, getting the halo effect, like where you've cut in and then you either relap that and make it double the color, or you cut in too thin and then now you've got a lighter halo around the room. When you're cutting in, put a ton of finish in your cut in. Then when you come back with the roller, get as close to the wall and just blend that with the roller and it looks like $1,000,000.
Communicating with each other while you're coating, don't let your cut in guy go too far ahead. And the new guy needs to learn that immediately. Like that's a key component, is that communication while you're coating. Don't let your guy get too far ahead. There goes half of your problems right there. And then when I'm cutting in, like I'm just pulling a puddle around. You've seen me coat.
Yeah.
It's like I'm pulling a big puddle around and I'm not straightening it up within reason, but like I'm not going back and pulling back finish. Every time you touch that finish, if your roller isn't full, it's going to pull that finish off so it is full. And so love
Yep.
those edges, communicate with your guys, and then let them cut in a little bit at a time and learn to step back and look at your work and make sure that you didn't miss something. And like that communication's all key. Like you missed that one stop mark, that saves you to have to come back and have to do a touch up tomorrow. If you're flooding those edges, like specifically like around a door jamb, like a casing, and you get that little puddle from the edge of your pad hitting it and kind of squeegeeing the finish out, you won't get away with that if you're dry brushing the edges, but you'll get away with that if you're flooding everything because everything will flow back into itself.
Yeah, that makes sense. Do you get much crap as a finish rep telling guys to flood the floor with finish, and they just say, "Oh, you're just trying to sell more finish. You're just trying to push more finish."
Yeah, and I just tell my story. Like I too didn't, I thought that I put enough finish on too. And then I took this job, went to Germany. We were like weighing panels. Like we're coating panels and weighing them to make sure that we put enough finish on. And I was like, oh, okay. Like I thought I was doing a good job, and I was, and most everybody is too. But we're also selling a product to the homeowner. We're selling them the best job they can possibly buy.
Right.
And if you're putting finish on at 700 feet a gallon, then you're not representing what you sold them, and you don't even know that that's like the problem. But when you're getting a call in 2 years, wondering about the wear and tear,
Yeah.
that is why you're having wear and tear.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
because you didn't get enough finish on the floor. But then pull out the calculator. So I do that. I'll pull out the calculator at the end, and I try to be like as close to 500 feet a gallon as I can. And if I'm at 500 feet a gallon with any of our finishes, very few problems.
Gotcha. Yeah. Are there any other things that they need to watch out for when they're using these in your products?
It's a game. You cannot just slap the stuff on. You can't slap it around. You're not going to get away with it. You are using a trick finish. Don't don't forget that. Even though we're giving you a tool to achieve different looks, it doesn't mean that it's like necessarily an easy tool. Which anyone that's ever used pigmented finish knows that.
Yeah.
This can be a really forgiving process, or it can be murder on you and your company because it's usually just sloppy workmanship.
You're talking about like the Amberizer and the Whitener, the UV and the Argo. That's just
Yep.
normal finish.
That isn't. Yep. Unless it freezes or something funky like that, you're never going to know the difference in coating.
Yeah.
But with the Amberizer and Whitener, yeah, it's just a game. Help each other out on that coat. You're doing something a little bit out of the norm. It's not the easiest thing in the world to
Yeah.
put down. It's not like you're just putting down easy finish by itself.
Yeah.
You don't want to go dragging it around with a cat.
One thing I would point out too is like plan your coating process, and if you've got a big open room or something like in your rolling, roll along, get the edge of your roller along the line of a board, so that when you come back,
Yep.
if that has flashed over, you can overlap that just a little bit, but you're not going to see
Yep.
a line right down the middle of the room. So if you're looking at a room that's 40 feet across and you're thinking, well, yeah, I'm going to flood the finish, but it's 40 feet by 60 feet, I can't make it across and back, okay. Plan it, pick a line of boards and then coat that line of boards down the room, turn around, coat back down that line and overlap a little bit so that finish emulsifies in itself. Plan out your coat, and it's not that difficult. Awesome. Well, I'll tell Phil that his floor is probably going to change color drastically, like really bad, here in the next couple of years due to sunlight. But hey, we gave him a good first year or two. So
Gave it our best shot. Gave it our best shot.
Oh man, awesome. All right, so one question I have is whether or not these additives can be added to any of the finishes, or are there any combinations you wouldn't want to have between Argo, UV, Amberizer, and Whitener?
You don't want to put Amberizer in hybrid or easy prime.
Okay.
Hybrids already are tinted finish,
Yep.
so you wouldn't add more to it. So Amberizer, don't put in easy prime, and don't put in hybrid.
Okay.
And then Whitener, don't put in hybrid because that's our oil modified waterborne finish.
Gotcha.
So that's already an ambered finish.
It's kind of like putting whitener in an oil-based poly. It's just going to give you some
Totally.
weird random effect.
Yep.
So, okay.
Yep. And thanks for the question because someone will do that someday.
Yeah, I probably would have done that if you hadn't told me. So, I'm that one special person. Awesome, Micah. Well, appreciate the info. This has been really good talk. I know I learned a lot. Oh my gosh, camera, stop. I think I gotta figure out my GoPro situation. Isn't this fun?
My dog is snoring next to me, so I had to give her a little flick.
I heard her at all one bit.
Oh, cool.
Oh, come on. Let's see here.